Hello, so this video is really exciting. I'm not even sure how to fit all of this in the frame, but we have been sent the 3.0 Bucatstate enclosure to review and try. Now I do have the 2.0 that I'm currently using with my mice, and I did make a video on my YouTube channel reviewing that, testing it out, giving my opinion, and there was a couple of things that I thought could be improved, and they have gone and done it. It's so rare for a brand to actually reflect and make the changes in their products, so I commend them so much for doing that. And they have made the 3.0 enclosure. Now this one is 120 by 60 by 60 centimeters, so it's a lot bigger. So this size makes it so good for Syrian hamsters. I am going to be using this with my group of mice, and I'm just going to be unboxing this, putting it together, testing it out, and seeing if it is any better than the 2.0 enclosure. So yeah, I'm gonna take this upstairs, set it up, and give you my honest opinion about the differences. So something that I didn't personally experience, but I did have a few people tell me did happen to them when using the 2.0 enclosure, specifically with hamsters and using a lot of bedding, which obviously does then weigh a fair bit. Some people were experiencing the bottom of the enclosure caving in under the weight, and to combat this with the 3.0 they've added these reinforcements just so it can bear a lot more weight, so that is already off to a positive start. So I'm noticing a few other differences already. When I first unboxed the 2.0 enclosure, it did have a couple of scratches on the metal on the base, and I believe they've changed this one to be more of like a matte texture to prevent it scratching as much, so that's great. They've also made the acrylic side panels a lot thicker. I believe they're about 3mm now, which is great because one of the issues I have with my 2.0, it's not really an issue, but it is something that I just worry about sometimes, is when I've got a lot of bedding, particularly at the front of the enclosure, it does start to bow outwards sometimes, so hopefully having thicker acrylic is going to stop that. This is also new. They've added these rubber pieces to the side panels just to shock absorb and stop it vibrating and shaking around as much. I did find, and I did mention this in my video about the 2.0 enclosure, that it did rattle slightly when it was empty, and it was quite noisy when it had nothing on it. So yeah, that's going to be a big improvement just to stop it being quite as flimsy and moving around as much. Time for the most satisfying part. Oh. Okay, I had to stop filming for a second because I'm struggling big time. I think, at least for me, this part is a two-person job. Trying to get this whole back panel on by myself and line it up with the holes correctly is really difficult whilst trying to hold it as well. And obviously these rubber things are great, but trying to line it up and get it in perfectly, it's quite difficult. And they've started to peel off, so now I can't get it back in the hole. Yeah, I'm gonna keep on trying, but I'm struggling with this step, I won't lie. Okay, that genuinely took me about 10 attempts to get that back piece in, but it's in, and I am never ever taking that out again. But they're in, and oh my goodness, it is huge. So the lid on this enclosure is now split into two separate doors, which I do think is good because you don't always want to lift up a big heavy door that's got everything hanging on the top if you just want to get to one section, so I do think that's good. So they do claim to have improved ventilation with this cage. I think they have added more slats on the top than the 2.0 has, which is good. My personal preference with mice is still to have mesh on the top, so I probably will change it just because of my personal preference. It does make hanging things so much easier, but yeah, that does look like they've added more ventilation. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's all put together and finished. And I can't believe just how big it is. And I did want to be completely honest and talk about something that we did struggle with, just so it might help you not make the same mistake if you're buying this enclosure and putting it together. So all of the bottom outside pieces and also the lid, they have also got rubber pieces in to shock absorb and hold everything in place. And we really struggled to actually get this together because we didn't follow one of the steps on the instructions. So on the instructions it says use the clear scraper to push the top panel and bottom panel plates rubber strips one by one and make sure to press them firmly against the bar to get a smooth fit. So I'm going to try to explain this as best I can because we didn't film anything in the moment because my boyfriend had to take over and do this step. Basically in all of the top pieces and also in the bottom in these bits and this bit, basically there's two pieces of rubber that are like this, and they do give you a spare piece of acrylic to do this. Basically you have to shove that between the two pieces of rubber to separate it, give it a gap for the acrylic side pieces to slot between the two pieces of rubber. So that was making it not able to slot together properly, and it was making this whole front section not fit. I couldn't close the door because I hadn't done that step, so don't skip that step. It's kind of hard to explain, but you just need to push those two pieces of rubber apart using this and create a gap for the side pieces to actually slot into, because otherwise you're just putting it on top and it's not going to fit in. So I hope that makes sense. That's the mistake that we made, or I made, not doing that step, and things weren't fitting together correctly. But yeah, as you can see, the front door latches are now on, and one thing I have noticed is there is now 6 of them. On the 2.0 enclosure, there is only 3. Obviously because it is a much longer enclosure, it's got a bigger door, it is going to need more latches. That is going to take a little bit more time to open them all and get access to the mice, which isn't necessarily a problem, but I think I might find myself using the top opening doors a bit more often, just because that is going to be quicker. But yeah, that is how it's looking empty, and now it's time to set it up. That is a whole bag of snowflake shavings, and I could add more if I wanted to. If I was using this for a Syrian hamster, for example, you can now have around 11 inches in the base, which is definitely an improvement. So for the mice, it's going to be better because I'm not going to have things hanging from the top, touching things that are on the floor. They're not going to be clashing into the wheels and things. So that added height makes such a difference. So there you have it. It's now time for my 5 mice, Griffin, Sphinx, Cedar, Birch and Teak, to go into their new home. And of course this enclosure is bigger than their previous one, and that does mean I am getting new mice next week. this enclosure being bigger has allowed me to rescue some more mice. There are so many mice in rescues and being given up at the moment that are in desperate need of homes, so having this bigger enclosure is going to allow me to rescue more mice. So thank you Bucatstate for sending this. This is going to mean I can have more mice, rescue more mice and save mice from bad situations or rehome mice that need rehoming. So thank you so much again for sending this. So there you have it, that is my thoughts and opinions on the 3.0 Bucatstate enclosure. I do think it is an improvement from the 2.0. I really like the double doors on the top. I like the thickened acrylic and the fact they now offer a bigger size that's suitable for Syrian hamsters. I really appreciate that. I will say the installation and putting this entire thing together is a lot trickier than the 2.0 just because of the improvements they've made to it. It does make it a lengthier, slightly more difficult process, as you've seen during my entire experience trying to put this together by myself. I do recommend trying to get someone that can help you do it because, especially with this size enclosure, it's not easy. But yeah, thank you so much to Bucatstate for sending me this enclosure to try, and the adorable ceramic acorn hide. We can't forget about that either. I will leave the link to this enclosure and also the hide in the description just in case you want to check them out. But I'm so excited to have a new enclosure for the mice, and next week I'm picking up some new mice, so stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed seeing this video. Don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!